Alright, y'all, let's run it back. It's me, your resident supervillain, Mr. J. Washington, here with my review for the first episode of The Falcon and the Winter Soldier on Disney+. Now, if you haven't seen it yet, you already know the drill. Come back, it's going to be spoilers. I know all the reviews, whether they're written or visual, all drop the day before the episode officially premieres. So a lot of people are watching them, whether they're spoiler or not, to get their opinions on them, mine included, all perspectives, formulate their opinions, if they're going to watch it, if they're not, and then still watch it, whatever the case may be. But that's why they drop a day early. So I drop mine. I'm like, you know what, here it is. I got a bunch of other stuff to do. I got auditions and I got scripts to send out. So I got stuff I got to do. But nonetheless, I'm excited about this because this is the second limited series that we're getting from Disney Plus in the MCU, but in all actuality, it was supposed to be the first. Because if you remember, the original timeline before COVID was Black Widow, Falcon and Winter Soldier, then everything else. And now we got WandaVision first, which set everybody up for the understanding of what the limited series were going to be, and so we get it. But one of the things I think WandaVision has shown us, and this further cements, which we would have seen in reverse order, is that a lot of these limited series and whatnot are going to be dealing with grief, because there's a lot of emotion, a lot of grief, a lot of loss, a lot of the impact of what the result, what Endgame was. You know, we started seeing it in Spider-Man Far From Home, but I think we're going in depth with these because that's why these are longer form series that are like a stretched out movie, if you will. And I'm cool with it. We start off with Sam. We see him getting dressed, and you hear the speech that him and Steve have at the end of Endgame when Steve tells him to take the shield, and he says, and Steve says, how does it feel? And he says, it feels like it belongs to someone else. Sam says that, and Steve's like, it's not, it's yours. And we see Sam going to talk about the shield, and he's dedicating it to the Smithsonian. He's not, we all thought initially from the trailers and everything we see, he's coming out the gate, taking up the mantle, and he's not. He's not. He gives it to the Smithsonian, and we see Rhodey. Don Cheadle's there telling him, yo, why didn't you take up the mantle, bro? Like, yo, it was there for you. And Sam has this, it doesn't feel right. You know, because he talks about the person makes the shield. And I think that's the lesson we'll see, that he has to believe in himself to be able to take the shield on, similar to how anybody had, like, Steve had to believe that he could lift Milnor in Endgame. You know, he had to believe that, you know, he was worthy of it, but he had to believe it. Sam's worthy of the shield, but he has to believe it. And so we go from that, and we see him on his first mission, and he has to, you got LAF, they're trying to hijack a plane, and we see Sam going into work. And you see what looks like to be modifications to the Falcon airsuit. How, yeah, we know it's bulletproof, but it's like a lot of abuse, and it doesn't rip off as easy. The maneuvers and the camera shots and the action we get in this is nonstop. And it's what we've come to love out of MCU movies. MCU movies have been layered, whether it be emotion, action, story. And so no matter what, you want to make sure you're getting those, and you get the action out the gate with this joint. And Red Wing is even amped up, and he does a whole lot more, you know. And so it was beautiful seeing all this, and you see Lieutenant Torres, who was helping him, like, yo, we're flying in a certain airspace, we're going into Libyan airspace, we can't do this. So Sam has to finish his mission before they go into Libyan airspace, and they do it. And then afterwards, you see Sam in they're in Tunisia, Sam and Lieutenant Torres, they're sitting there talking. Sam's doing some work fixing it. I'm talking about the last time I gave it to the Air Force, they messed up certain things. But then they start talking about the Flag Smashers, you know, the group that we see in the trailers with the hand excuse me, on the mask and whatnot, and what they're doing and how they're going around. You know, I'm mixed up the two about the Smithsonian thing. It didn't come in that order. My bad. I'm looking at it and thinking the same way. I'm trying not to go beat by beat, but it's one of those things. My bad. We see Bucky whooping ass as the Winter Soldier, right? And you know, Bucky got the hair and everything. And you see Winter Soldier arm, you got the Soviet Union star on there. And I know I was like, for a second, I was like, hey, how the fuck did fam go back? But then you realize it's a nightmare Bucky's having. You watch him taking out dudes in the bank, and then he kills somebody who sees him. Because again, the Winter Soldier was leave no witnesses, etc., etc. And he was doing what he does. And then he goes to therapy, which turns out to be the most hilarious thing ever. Because the therapist is steadily trying to get him to open up and talk about his feelings and stuff, and how, you know, how he has to move forward, especially the terms of his parole. Because remember, part of the Sokovia Accords and whatnot. and even being the Winter Soldier on top of that. You know, not just the Sokovia Accords, but him being a wanted criminal as the Winter Soldier. Even outside of what he was set up for with Zemo in Civil War, but he does a mission where he goes to one of the senators he finds out is dirty, and the whole time he's using his Winter Soldier tactics, but the therapist reminds him, because he says he did something, and the therapist is telling him about his three things, like he has to do what's number one, nothing illegal. Number two, nobody gets hurt. Bucky's like, well, shouldn't that be number one though? Like in priority order. Like he keeps pissing his therapist off because it's like she irks him, and like whenever she asks him questions, he don't respond to shit. He starts writing. She starts writing. He like, oh shit, so you just gonna start writing? That's what you gonna do? But the third thing that he has to do whenever he approaches somebody to make his amends and do things better, he has to say, I am no longer the Winter Soldier. I'm James Bucky Barnes, and you're part of my amends to everybody he's making amends to. It's like his Alcoholics Anonymous, but I think it's hilarious. You got a dude who you know can kill you, who can murder the fuck out you. Hi, I'm not that dude you was seeing that was out here murdering people in these streets. That ain't me, fam. That ain't me. I'm just James Bucky Barnes. You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to make amends to everything, and so she tells him that he's got to nurture friendships. She said, looked at his phone and was like, yo, I'm the only person you've called in a week. So you've been ignoring Sam's phone calls, and why don't you try to have a regular life? And Bucky always feels like he says he's always at war and he doesn't have peace. And the only time he had a little peace was when he was in Wakanda, and he went from one fight to another fight for 90 years straight, which, yeah, because the Soviets were freezing and unfreezing him. You know, they would freeze him for a mission, send him out, do the dirt, refreeze him, freeze him for another mission. He was just constantly going. He never had peace before, you know, the train situation in Captain America First Avenger. Like, he's going. And you see Bucky goes to a bar, Mr. Nakasima, there's an older man. He's being tortured and harassed by one of his neighbors just because of some garbage. He's putting garbage in the wrong can, and older people are like that sometimes. Like, these are my cans. I don't care if it's empty. Don't put no garbage in it. And he's like, hey, bro, calm down. And then the man, Mr. Nakazima, is so upset. He's like, he wants to go. Bucky's like, yo, let's go to lunch. Bucky's like, I'll pay for it. So dude's like, bet, let's go, because that's how it is. Nobody want to do nothing to somebody else. Like, you ain't got to pay for it. He's like, word. All right, so you have that. We go to Delacroix, Louisiana, and you see the boat, Paul and Darlene, which is Sam's parents' boat, but it's being run by his sister Sarah. And the community is a hard-working fishing community. They no matter what. And the beautiful thing is there isn't this what you would sometimes expect, this grandiose accepting welcome home parade type deal. It's, hey, what's happening, Sam? Yeah, let me go and get to work. I'm talking to you while I'm working. And that shows the community, and that's the community that Sam was brought up in. That's who his parents were. That's who he was. That's who his sister is with his kids. He also talks about how, when his kids, when he left, before he was snapped out, they were babies, now they're grown. The parents' boat is broken down, and the sister's like, she really wants to sell it. Sam's like, no. And sister's like, yo, but we got to do all these different things. And he's like, I can help make it happen. We can get a loan, and we can do all this other stuff, and we can make things happen and build up. And you have some more of that, and you have these things that are building up. Sam is trying. Eventually, we go later on where Sam is trying to fix the boat. Sam is trying to live a normal life. He is an Avenger. That's what he does. He stops global threats. That's what he does. But at the same time, he's trying to get back to a sense of normalcy. He's been gone for 5 years. He doesn't want to lose his parents' boat. He believes in that, even though him and his sister bump heads, which you have a lot of times in real life when there's something the parents have left behind that is an inheritance or could be of worth or could be of value, but one sibling may feel like it's not. And so there's a meeting of the minds and a clashing when you have those people like, yo, I don't want this. We need to sell this. Let's move on. And the sibling's like, nah, you cool. Let's chill. And so that's what you have with that. I'll get to a bigger part towards the end with this and with Sam and his sister, but I want to talk about how Lieutenant Torres, he's going, after he talks with Sam in Tunisia and Sam goes to the Smithsonian, he's tracking down the flag smashers, and he ends up going to one of their recruiting things. He follows the chatter on the internet, which is always has done in seemingly real life, and he follows it to a situation, and he runs up to one and he tries to stop him, and the one that he tries to stop beats dog shit out of him, shows how strong he is, stumps him out, etc., and talks to Sam and tells Sam about it. And Sam's like, okay, blah blah blah, he'll deal with it. But you also have you going back to Sam. So Sam is trying to figure out how to save the boat with his sister. Now his sister, she's real reluctant. She starts wanting to sell fish dinners. You know what I'm saying? Again, hardworking community in the South. You know, people know how to make money different ways. If something ain't working, let's find something else. Keep it moving, keep it pushing. You know, that's that will, determination, and perseverance despite it all. She even talks about how he was gone. She lost her husband in the snap, and she was stuck alone having to raise her boys for the 5 years during the snapping. Because, again, I said it during WandaVision. I said it during Spider-Man Far From Home. Thanks to my homie Winston A. Marshall. I refuse to call it the blip. Call it the snapping. And so they go see a banker in town. And the banker is a fan. The banker's a fan of Sam because he realizes, like, yo, haven't I seen you somewhere before? Don't I know you? And Sam's trying to do this where he's not trying to use his Avenger status to get anything. He's like, yo, off the merit, off the strength of, you know, yeah, I work, but not just because I'm an Avenger, if that makes sense. And the loan agent's like, I know you somewhere. And he's like, yeah, you might know me. And he does this shit. And he's like, oh, and the banker's like, yo, I want to take pictures and et cetera, et cetera. And then he asks a question that sounds weird at first, but it makes everybody really think. In general, anybody watching this thinks, how do Avengers get paid? Do y'all get paid? Do you get a salary? Is Tony Stark paying you? Is the government paying you? Is S.H.I.E.L.D. paying you? But there's no S.H.I.E.L.D. So, like, does Stark International pay you? And then he says something like, yo, it's really done off of goodwill and gesture. You know, people donate, but there's no, like, real income. And then I guess the finances, the books of what was being brought in by the sister as well as Sam not really having any money but still being an Avenger, the loan officer's like, I can't approve you for this loan. And Sarah says something that's the realest shit ever. Things always seem to be tighten up when it comes to us. And she's not saying that as us as, you know, she's talking about, no, she's straight up saying that us as black people. Because there is this bias in many situations you see. And I know a lot of people going to watch this like, oh, here goes bringing race into something. That's because it's always predicated into something, whether you want to accept it or not. And the fact that all of our comic book movies and TV shows talk about race in one way, shape, form, or fashion or another, because it's a real thing. You can't ignore it. And I know people say, well, I watch my comic book movies and TV shows, and I read my comic book movies, my comic books to get away from politics. Everything in life is political. Just because it's not labeled Republican or Democrat, liberal or conservative, everything is political. It's one way, shape, form, or fashion or another. You are not going to escape it. Sorry, it is what it is. But her saying things always seem to tighten up around us. And it's a realization that because we're black, we're not getting this loan. You don't believe we can pay it. Oh, you the good, you the superhero dude, but I don't think you got no real money. You're like, yo, money comes in. I can get money. That's nothing. Sam is like, yo, I'm a vet. I'm an Avenger. I can get this money to pay back. We just needed to start to go forward. And dude is brushing it off. Whereas he's still trying to be a fan. Dude's still like, yo, can I get a selfie with you? Can I get another picture with you? And Sam like, I should beat your ass up. And I don't blame him. Because again, you fanboying out to me. You know eventually I can get this dough. I'm connected, even though he's dead, I'm connected to his company and Tony Stark's company, one of the biggest companies in the world in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I can get this money. What are you talking about? So again, this leads to Sam and his sister still arguing over the situation, you know, over what's going on, and, you know, trying to sell it, you know, need to sell a boat and trying to sell a dinners. Again, dealing with this real life situation, dealing with this grief, dealing with this loss, dealing with this pain. And then the worst thing happens. After having the shield put in the Smithsonian because it will no longer be utilized, again, Sam steps down. Sam was given the shield to be Captain America, steps down, gives it to the Smithsonian. The senator or congressman, I don't know who exactly it was, I can't remember, excuse me, if it escapes me for the moment. It was like, cool, we get it. We're going to put it on display. It's going to stay here. Comes on TV. While Sam got to watch with his sister, was like, yeah, so basically, we need a hero. And Yeah, we got you one. So here's our new Captain America, and up comes the U.S. agent, the introduction of U.S. agent, which Sam basically is like, "Are you fucking serious?" And many people will have, we all know the story, but it makes you think: should they have reached out to Sam, like, "Yo, we really need someone to carry on the shield. You already are doing missions." You already are going on missions. We need a hero to carry the shield. And again, of course, the point is to saying, yeah, we have these international heroes, these worldly heroes, but we need people at home on our home soil. Sam should be reached out to. And then to see that they did it with another dude. Again, this is similar to the way the comics received it. When it was announced that Sam Wilson was going to be Captain America, and you had people who had a whole bunch of pushback saying, how you going to have a black Captain America? And it's like, easy. Captain America's an A label, and B, anyone can't. Black people in America are Americans. So what's the issue? But we don't have this direct interaction yet of the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. We're building up, showing you their lives. I forgot to tell you, Bucky tried to go on a date. And like there's a waitress, a beautiful waitress at this Japanese restaurant, and she's like, Mr. Nakajima actually the one that put him out there. He's his wingman. It's like, yo, he want to take you on a date, and she like, yeah, and he like, Bucky like, oh, whoa, wait, what? And their date is just them chilling, playing games in the restaurant, drinking beers where she works. But Bucky can't do it. He doesn't know how to live a life. He's 104 years old. You know what I'm saying? He don't know how to do this yet. He goes to Mr. Nakajima to try to talk to him. When he opens the door, he realizes it was his son that he killed. Bucky's dealing with his grief and his guilt. Remember, Bucky carries a lot of guilt. We found out he killed Tony's parents. He's done so much as the Winter Soldier. And now the one person he's close to, the older Japanese man who's like 90 to 100 years old, his age. It's someone his age, even though we don't, the looks aren't the same. It's the one person who's been through life who can relate to him. Because the only other person that he knew of is technically gone in Steve Rogers. He killed his son. And eventually he has to come to amends to that. It's his guilt, his grief, his loss. Again, Sam's guilt of not being able to provide for his family, the grief of not being there, the loss of being gone for the 5 years. And we're seeing all of that. And again, it's in episode 1. And like I said, the two haven't come together, but yet we're seeing how all this folds out, how two men who were gone, who were instrumental in helping save the world, come back and now have to live their regular lives on top of the lives as heroes. And so we're going to see more of that, the Baron Zemo element, the Flag Smasher element. Zemo talking about how superheroes shouldn't be allowed to exist, and so much more. And I'm looking forward to it. Again, the action in this. Again, also, I think for me, as a fan of comic book movies and TV shows, you give a good story, you're great. I was excited about WandaVision because I knew it was going to be something different. I knew it was going to be unique in a sense. This wasn't going to be normal what we see as far as stories. This is an expanded version for me in the Falcon and the Winter Soldier of what we got in Civil War. Captain America Winter Soldier. More, yeah, a little Civil War, but the story, the feel of Winter Soldier more than anything. And I'm just looking forward to it all the way through. But I want to know what your thoughts are in those comments below. All right? And you already know the drill. Like, subscribe, notifications, all that, blah, 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 blah. Twitter and Instagram is where you can find me. Blurred to the Hood, Tuesdays and Thursdays. Mad Titan Podcast is coming back. I've been on a little bit of a hiatus, trying to get everything together the right way so I can do it and come back stronger and nonstop. I know I've been saying it, but it's been a lot of things stopping that. But we're going to get on that again and all that. So, holla at y'all later. I'm out. Bye.